Prime Minister Joseph Dion Gute calls on Twitter to ensure that strict barrier measures against COVID-19 are respected at Cameroon's airports at a time when the second wave COVID-19 figures are going up. Allah's campaigns for regional elections take off tomorrow for the next 2 weeks, taking the process closer to its denouement on December 6. Plus sports, Slovakian cyclist Lukas Kubis rides faster than Cameroon-born Kamzonga Busolo to win the 10th lap of the Shantabia International Cycling Tour. The yellow jersey is still with Moise Mugisha from Rwanda. Good evening and welcome to the 7:30 News. I am Benin Bumagana in Yaoundé.
Each of us must comply with the measures that have been taken.
We're coming to you live from Studio 5 of the CRTV Production Center in Balatou. The Minister of Transport and Airport Authorities in Cameroon have been called upon to strictly apply barrier measures against COVID-19 at Cameroon's airports in order to reduce the risk of importation of new cases. Prime Minister Joseph Dion Gute gave the instructions today during the meeting of the Interministerial Committee to monitor government's response strategy against COVID-19 pandemic. Christian Che Atams reports.
Chaired by Prime Minister Joseph Dion Gute through video conferencing, the session aimed at reviewing barrier measures in Cameroon's airports to reduce the risk of importation of new cases of COVID-19. The Minister of Transport, Jean-Ernest Massenan Galebibehe, said passengers go through a decontamination process and are admitted into the country only upon the presentation of a COVID-19 negative test result. Statistics indicate that since the institution of barrier measures at Cameroon's airports, 99.56% of travelers flying into the country present valid COVID test results. Talking on the situation of COVID-19, the Minister of Public Health, Manauda Malachi, said the recovery rate in the country stands at 95%. He said despite the recent cases in Douala and Bafoussam, the COVID-19 curve in Cameroon is still slanting downwards. Prime Minister Joseph Dion Gute has instructed that the situation at Cameroon's airports be constantly monitored to ensure a strict application of barrier measures at all times. He has equally ordered that specialized treatment centers remain operational and communication around COVID-19 be continued.
A special meeting to evaluate the security situation of the Northwest region is going on in Bamenda, chaired by the Minister Delegate at the Presidency of the Republic in charge of Defense, Joseph Betia Somo, accompanied by the bosses of the police and intelligence services. Our special envoy to Bamenda, Albert Njembonde, reports.
After Boya and Kumba, this is Joseph Betia Somo in Bamenda. It is the first time the defense and police bosses, as well as chiefs of intelligence services in the country, are visiting the region at the same time in 40 years. A visit coming in the wake of relative improvement in the security situation in the region, but with pockets of resistance from separatists.
Our presence here, as instructed by the head of state, Commander-in-Chief of the Defense and Security Forces, attests to government's resolve to provide an effective and definite solution to this crisis which keeps tormenting our people.
The special in-camera security meeting permitted a joint mission to assess the strategies on the ground, days to the regional elections and end-of-year feast. While visiting soldiers wounded in the line of duty, Joseph Beti Asomo transmitted the encouragements of the head of state, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, and noted with satisfaction that normalcy was gradually returning with an execution rate of projects which doubles that of last year.
Members of the National Assembly have begun scrutinizing a bill on the Nagoya-Kuala Lumpur Protocol on biodiversity and safety. The plenary sitting was presided over by House Speaker Honorable Kavayega Jibril, who in a separate meeting talked with CPDM officials from the Far North region about the regional elections and start of the campaigns tomorrow. Esther Kima has a roundup of the activities of the Speaker of the House.
An animated day it was for the legislators of the lawmaking institution, with House Speaker Honorable Kavayega Jibril keeping the proceedings moving at the chairman's conference. With the adoption of the order paper and the fixing of the plenary sittings of November 20 and 24, the entire House is convened to examine the bill to authorize the President of the Republic to proceed with Cameroon's accession to the Nagoya-Kuala Lumpur Supplementary Protocol on liability and redress to the Cartagena Protocol on biosafety. The scrutiny report of the Foreign Affairs Committee, presented by Honorable Ibrahima Bobo, outlining the regulations governing biotechnology in Cameroon, plus the acquisition of tools to prevent damage to biodiversity and human health, were partially addressed before the adjourning of the plenary sitting. At a strategic meeting in the Speaker's cabinet, attended by the 6 divisional heads of the CPDM in the Far North region, House Speaker Honorable Kavayega Jibril conferred on the party's game plan in the December 6 regional election. They cut a deal to score outstanding results in the poll and to whip up the youth to cross the Rubicon on the employment and wealth creation opportunities offered by governments. They unanimously opted for interpersonal communication to carry across the message in the COVID-19 era.
Few hours to the launch of campaigns for the regional council elections, political parties and traditional rulers have been at work to fine-tune their campaign strategies. They are working on the grand ceremonies they will organize to launch the event and the convincing arguments they will bring forth to win the vote. Beatrice Losamba has been to some political headquarters and chiefdoms where campaign planning has been intense. She brought back this report.
At first view, it seems all calm here at the headquarters of Cabral Liby's Cameroon Party for National Reconciliation. But in the inner core, campaign plans are in the making. The party, which runs for the regional elections in 4 regions of the country, has ambitions to win seats for divisional representatives to the regional council in 7 divisions.
This Saturday, we will launch first campaign in Douala and a second in Ezeka on Sunday.
The National Union for Democracy and Progress, NUDP, seeks to win control over at least a region, hitting the campaign trail with winning gadgets.
The campaign is ready and we have our strategies in place.
The ruling CPDM party wears a confident look on the eve of campaigns.
We are very prepared. I would say we are comfortable because we are going in for an election which we are sure to win because we have a majority of the councillors on the field. But in spite of that, we still have to prepare ourselves very well because it's won in advance.
On the other side of town, candidates for traditional rulers' representatives seem unruffled by the pressure of the campaign launch.
We have prepared gadgets, T-shirts, banners and brochures.
And the race is only about to start. The eve of elections comes with the realization that these candidates are a step to winning or losing seats in the regional council.
Let's see how it is in the southwest region, where some municipal councillors in that region say they are patiently waiting for the first ever regional elections in Cameroon scheduled for December 6. Barely few hours to the launch of campaigns, our reporter Ethel Edimo Lifitambela spoke to some of these politicians and brought back this report.
Article 226, paragraph 1 of the Electoral Code states that registration cards shall be distributed by the divisional branches of Elections Cameroon within the 20 days preceding the elections. So, Elecam is in conformity as it has started the distribution process with a 95% success rate recorded.
The cards were produced on time, and the cards have been handed to the divisional branch heads, who in turn have given the cards to the council branches, because the council branches can easily work with the councils. They have started distribution, but they have not given me the total number that has been distributed so far. Those who can collect their cards will collect from the council branches, and on the day of the elections, those who have not collected it, though, the cards will be taken to the polling centers.
Mr. Mewano also explained that the ballot papers are almost ready, but for one which is still pending.
We've had even the ballot papers. The only ballot paper which is still pending is that of FACO, and the reason being that there was a petition, and until the Supreme Court comes with a contrary ruling of the administrative bench, we cannot produce the ballot papers of FACO.
All those concerned with the electoral process have been challenged to turn out massively to perform their civic responsibility.
The president of the National Communication Council has emphasized the stakes involved in the upcoming December 6 regional council elections. Chairing a special session of board members of the NCC today, Peter Isoka reminded media practitioners to uphold objectivity and fairness as they cover the first ever elections of this kind in the country. Mukwele Prince-Will Aduma covered the session. He reports.
In this sitting, the National Communication Council sets the tone to regulate media coverage of campaigns for Cameroon's very first regional council elections, in an exercise where stakeholders, including the media, are first-timers.
In this, we're asking for the direct involvement of the journalists in the campaign, regulatory airtime, and normal news processing, prohibition of the publication and broadcasting of election trends or results.
The media and facilitator roles of the journalist as the country negotiates the last bend in the decentralization process in these elections.
In a context of asserting press freedom, it's a peculiar kind of election, and care has to be taken.
The NCC banks on its experience in previous elections, but because that of December 6th is special, Peter Isoka calls for tact on the part of his collaborators in monitoring the campaigns.
And talking about the media, the CRTV has readjusted its program schedule on both the national radio and television to provide its publics with update news on the regional campaign council elections. As the campaigns take off tomorrow, Saturday, a 30-minute election news has been programmed and several other news reports and features made available. For what will change, here is Gilbert Ongene Anya.
The national station, special magazines and newscasts have been conceived to ensure that listeners don't miss out on any aspects of the regional council elections.
You have many news bulletins, and concretely also you have this big moment, the political propaganda, who is going to be aired every day.
At the level of the various media platforms like CRTV Web, magazines, political maps of regions, interactive sessions on Facebook and Twitter, and live streaming of newscasts and election propaganda programs will be served. Slight modifications will also take place on television.
During election periods, the news breaks up into two. There is one news that is devoted entirely for campaign news. But the classical news remains. That one deals with every other daily event.
By and large, CRTV, leader in the coverage of major events, is once again bracing up to handle the coverage of the regional council elections with a good dose of professionalism and savoir-faire.
So if you need to know anything about the regional council elections, all you need to do is stay glued to the Cameroon radio television and radio. Now, with this one, in the framework of the electoral campaign of political parties for the election of regional councillors of December 6, 2020, the Director General of the Cameroon Radio Television informs the representatives of political parties concerned of the following. The recording of their campaign messages is scheduled from Saturday, November 21 to Saturday, December 5, 2020, from 10:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. at the Mbala 2 Production Center for Television, from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. at the National Broadcasting House of the CRTV for radio. The recordings will take place in accordance with the arrêté of the Minister of Communication, setting the conditions of production, programming and broadcasting, as well as the airtime allocated to political parties within the framework of these electoral campaigns. Signed, the Director General of the Cameroon Radio Television, Charles Ndongo. Some senators, parliamentarians and councillors have discussed the creation of a unique treasury account to enhance the financing of local development projects during a forum dubbed Déjeuner de la Décentralisation in Yaoundé. It is expected that the unique treasury account will go operational once all stakeholders have agreed on the modus operandi. Ewane Epole tells us more.
Discussions during the 7th Forum dubbed Déjeuner de la Décentralisation, organized in Yaoundé, centered on the unique treasury account being put in place by the Ministry of Finance to ease the financing of development projects in the country.
In this account, you can take directly what you put in this account, because now any mayor can use his money. That is a renewal for decentralization from next January.
Municipal councillors, mayors, parliamentarians, senators and the civil society, after an exchange with Minfi officials, lauded the initiative.
Centralizing finances is a wonderful idea. It's true that we are talking about decentralization, but you realize that there are some areas where they don't have a lot of money that comes into the treasuries. So when the resources are centralized, it's very easy.
The Sensitization Forum is to enlighten the public on government's measures on the effective implementation of the decentralization process in Cameroon.
Educative and frank discussions on HIV/AIDS took place today at the Yaoundé Lycée Général Leclerc on the occasion of the Cameroon HIV/AIDS Month organized by African Synergy. The move was to strengthen the capacity of health clubs in secondary schools. The Executive Secretary of African Synergy participated in the discussions and called on students not to be afraid for voluntary screening. Staff Lady Enanga Kebi has the details.
The participants for the educative discussions on HIV/AIDS comprised 140 students, all members of health clubs from some 70 secondary schools in the nation's capital. They were accompanied by their teachers. In front of them were health experts, consultants, and the technical team of African Synergy. In all frankness, both teams talked on sexuality and HIV/AIDS freely. The experts reiterated on the need for students to go in for voluntary screening and not to be afraid to know their status.
The main message this year is to help our youth, not to be scared of being screened. So we encourage them to go, do their own screening, and then be courageous enough to accept the results, since nobody dies today from HIV/AIDS.
According to Mrs. Pauline Moutong, a resource person on HIV/AIDS from the Chantal Biya Foundation and a seropositive mother, it is through screening that HIV-positive patients can receive appropriate treatment. She has been living with AIDS for the past 20 years.
Abstinence is the most thing that we students are supposed to make before have age to go and to make sex.
We want to make the club members, the teachers in charge of the science subject and all the subjects especially, to encourage them to go in for testing so that they know their serological status.
The principal of the Yaoundé Lycée Leclerc thanked Mr. Jean-Stéphane Biacha and African Synergy for the confidence in choosing his institution for this important and enriching exercise. He called on teachers to encourage students to go in for free screening regularly.
the wearing of face masks in public places will be mandatory until further notice.
Let's now cut into the second canto and talk about this fight against COVID-19. Health professionals have concluded that it is possible for an individual to fly to another country and be tested as symptomatic for COVID-19. But then, along the days, be tested negative. This is as a result of a low amount of virus in their system, which leads to quicker viral clearance. Now, let's meet Baldwin Sama at the Public Health Emergency Center with updates. Hello, Baldwin.
Good evening to you, Benin Bumagana. I should say it becomes quite complicated at times to understand the differences. Why it happens that a traveler, for example, is tested positive for COVID-19 upon arrival in a country, and 2 or 3 days later, he is tested negative. Public health experts, or I should say, most virologists have explained to us that most travelers are symptomatic persons who do not produce COVID-19, total COVID-19 symptoms, and when most of them get to the airport, when they are screened for COVID-19, they are tested positive or they are asymptomatic. This happens in the fact that most of them have a low virus amount in their different systems, and this low virus amount in their respective systems paves the way for a quicker viral clearance within the next 22 to 72 hours. Reasons therefore why, after being tested positive or declared asymptomatic at the airport, 2 to 3 days later, when the person is subjected to another COVID-19 test, this person is tested negative. It happens, proven by public health experts. It comes to put an end to the so much talk or controversies outlined by some patients who say that they have been dished or they have been given or issued out controversial COVID-19 results by the same health facilities. Some of them tested positive 2 days after they are negative. It happens due to the differences noticed so far with regards to the viral level or virus amount in the different immune systems of these persons. But the outline or the take-home message from here is the continuous strict respect of the outlined barrier measures by the government of Cameroon. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Baldwin Sama van Kamen, and keep taking good care of yourself. An agreement has been signed between the Ministry of Social Affairs and the General Delegation for National Security for persons with disabilities eligible to acquire the National Disability Card. That is, to be entitled for tax exoneration and fare reduction. Over 15,000 biometric computerized National Disability Cards are expected to be produced yearly. Gerard Nanji, please tell us more.
By appending their signatures on this document, the Ministry of Social Affairs and the Delegation for National Security are poised in implementing the 2010 law on the protection and promotion of people living with disabilities. According to the Delegate General for National Security, Matemba Gangele, his institution is out to set up a computerized system to establish and issue national disability cards to those eligible. This, as the Social Affairs Board says, it comes with some benefits.
The issuance of the National Disability Card to persons with disabilities who are eligible enables them to benefit from tax exoneration, free education, and first vocational training, fare reduction as concerned public transportation, cost reduction as concerned medical charges, functional re-education, and fitting with prostheses.
In Cameroon, people with disabilities are estimated at nearly over 2 million. A follow-up committee shall be set up to monitor and evaluate the implementation of the said agreement.
News from Kribi says a total of 1,000 ships have docked at the Kribi Deep Seaport since it went operational in 2018. The 1,000th ship docked at its shores in Boro. It was received by the Director General of the port, Patrice Melom. The Kribi Deep Seaport is said to be amongst the first best 10 investments in Africa. Polycarp Atier reports from Kribi.
1,000 ship which docked at the Kribi Deep Sea Port was an impressive 250 meters vessel loaded with 4,500 containers with a crew of 21, received by the Director General of the Kribi Deep Sea Port.
Today, as we say, the 1,000 vessels. This is within less than 3 years. The main satisfaction for us also is that our users are very satisfied of our service.
Nue Assumption, captain of the ship known as Copenhagen, Singapore, saluted the quality of reception given to them by the authorities of the port and says it comes as a relief to the stress of the journey.
When we arrived here, Port State Control authorities and other authorities came, which are equally very good to us.
The 1,000 ship received at the Kribi Deep Sea Port indicates its leading position in Central Africa and its enormous contribution to Cameroon's economy since it went operational.
And let's quickly take this. The Minister of Decentralization and Local Development, George Elanga Obam, today inaugurated the new council office of Ngomenzab in the Nyong and So division of the Central region. The infrastructure worth over 500 million CFA francs was financed by FACOM. Minister George Elanga Obam now underlines the importance of the municipal complex in this excerpt. Take a listen.
There is an inauguration of a town hall. It will acknowledge that the decentralization is effectively working. The deepening of the decentralization is a reality here. Is also a contribution to show that the town is improving in its capacity of having buildings that can permit people to work. It is also a message to have our population, those who are working in town, some time to come back to their place so that they can give their hands, so that villages can gain what they've won outside of the city. It is also an appeal for our municipal councillors to take part to the coming elections on the 6th of December, because we are going to put in place our regional councils.
On to this advertorial, the EcoBank Group in Cameroon has donated some money, that is some medical kits with 10 million CFA francs to the Douala General Hospital to support the fight against non-communicable diseases, with focus this year on diabetes. This donation is part of the bank's corporate social responsibility, also marking the 2020 edition of EcoBank Day, celebrated November 11. Cynthia Etim reports from Douala.
For the 2020 edition of EcoBank Day, focus was laid on the sensitization and fight against diabetes, which is making victims in Cameroon and Africa. Health officials estimate that 19.4 million adults in Africa are living with diabetes, and 60% of them are ignorant of their status. EcoBank, through its corporate social responsibility, takes action. They have not only sensitized the community, but have also donated medical kits that will be used for the screening and care of diabetes patients at the Douala General Hospital.
Last year we did the fight against cancer by giving free cancer screening and also creating awareness. And this year the focus is on diabetes. And we have been doing awareness campaigns and also offering free diabetes screening in our branches in Cameroon. As a bank, you cannot operate in an economy where people are not doing well health-wise.
The Douala General Hospital is renowned for the follow-up of diabetes patients. Thus, the medical kits received will go a long way to help the management of the hospital improve their services to diabetic patients.
In all of the stages of following up patients with diabetes, we will be well equipped to do that, and so we are again once more very grateful.
Apart from Douala, EcoBank Group also carried out same health campaign in Yaoundé, Boya and Bafoussam. This is in a bid to ensure the well-being of their clients and staff.
It is our role as a Pan-African bank to make sure that we empower our people by giving them healthy lifestyles so that together we can build strong economies.
The Pan-African Bank, EcoBank, has been existing since 1988 and has gained grounds in 33 countries across the continent.
Now let's talk sports, where Slovakian cyclist Lukas Kubis has won the third lap of the Grand Prix Shantabia cycling tour. Lukas Kubis covered the 167-kilometer distance from Yaoundé to Ebolova in 3 hours, 51 minutes, 35 seconds ahead of Cameroonian cyclist Kamzong Abosolo. However, Rwanda's Moise Mugisha still wears the yellow jersey. Details with Daniel Ekonde.
In this touristic village in Ebolova, 20-year-old Slovakian Lukas Kubis accelerated his speed to win the third lap of the Grand Prix Chantalbia after picking up the second place on Thursday.
I'm really happy for this victory. In first and second stage it was 5th and second place, and now it's victory. It's great. Yeah, I'm really happy.
Cameroonian Clovis Kamzong Abosolo came second in a course taken in almost 4 hours from Yaoundé to Nkolandom in Ebolova. It is the first time the village, some 18 kilometers from central town, is hosting the Grand Prix Chantalbia.
I am very delighted, very satisfied by this choice, but it is not only the choice of my village, because as you know, I am the chief of this village. It is again the choice of the division, the Villa division.
Finishing third in today's race, Rwandan Moise Mugisha keeps the yellow jersey. Lucas is second, closely followed by Clovis, who is third on the general classification table. Saturday's pursuit will be run from Zoitele to Meyomesala in a distance of 116.4 kilometers.
Thank you very much for following the 7:30 news. Lucrece is coming up at 8:30 with the news. God bless you. Have a wonderful night.
In this connection, we should avoid stigmatizing.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.